to talk about the Kenneth Sims Jr. versus Arnold Barbosa Jr. Well, it was Junior versus Junior, and basically the Mexican Junior came out on top. Basically, this fight was easy to judge. It was easy to score if you're doing your own or imaginary version. Are you playing side judge from your house? Barboza won the fight going away. Maybe at the best case scenario or worst case scenario, if you want to call it, for Barboza or Sims Jr. Maybe best case scenario, Sims Jr. won maybe 3 rounds, and you know you know, and best case for Barboza from worst that he won 9 out of 12 rounds, and towards the last 3 rounds he started to get really comfortable. He knew he was on cruise control. He started using his footwork a lot, and he just outdid everything. I think Kenneth Sims got to the point where I don't know, maybe he forgot that he only had like maybe 8 knockouts. It got to the point to where it looked like Sims was just trying to land one punch that he thought could hurt Barbosa and put his lights out. But he isn't a super big puncher. He has single digit knockouts. And now he has his fourth loss. So now you have to ask yourself, where does that leave him? And you have to evaluate him, like, how good is he as a fighter? Listen, at 22 fights, it's not a good look when you have 4 losses. Now, if you're in the 30s and you got 4 losses, like guys like Danny Garcia, okay, that's fine, you know. But when you are, you know, when you have like 25, 26 fights, already have 4, that says a lot. And he's just not, I'm not gonna say he's a run of the mill fighter, but he's a little bit above average. And you have saw that in a few of his fights. He doesn't have a second gear, and that's the problem. And to be honest with you, had Barbosa had a little bit more power, and Barbosa isn't a big puncher, but he got respectable power. And I think if Barbosa had a little bit more power, he might have done some serious damage to Sims Jr. He might have would have put him on his ass, or he might have would have been able to get a late stoppage. But Barbosa, he just was beating he just was beating Sims to the punch. He beat him with basic fundamentals. Use the jab, picking the spots, great body shots, getting off first, you know, using the stick, fighting on the imaginary line, good counter punching. And he just beat him with basic fundamentals. And Kenneth Sims is a cool dude and everything, but I just have to keep it a buck. And he says that he's going back down. He's going back down to 140. He's but I'll tell you this much: Barboza fought a good enough fight to see how he would fare against some other people. Now, keep in mind, he was the dude to step up. He was going to be the dude that was going to be the replacement for Ryan Garcia if Ryan Garcia didn't go through with the fight. He fought Devin Haney. It was going to be Barbosa. So it would be, I would like to see Barbosa, to be honest with you, maybe he can get a rematch with Tiafimo at 147. He didn't get beat bad enough to where you can't a rematch. Put him in there with the guys like Brian Norman Jr., those type of dudes. Might clean his clock, I think. Let's see where he is. I think welterweight is about to get very interesting. Barbosa is a decent fighter. He has a win over Jose Ramirez. He has a win over Jack Catterall. He has some decent wins because Jack Catterall is a very decent fighter. You know, so he got some decent wins. You know, so the only thing is with him, he just not a big puncher, and you have to wonder how would that fare with him against dudes like Keyshawn. Keyshawn is got good power. And then they're saying he might be next up for Ryan Garcia or down the line for Ryan Garcia. It would be an easier fight to make due to the fact that they're both Golden Boy fighters. Um, Ryan Garcia is one of them dudes. If you have a good game plan for Ryan Garcia is very beatable. Ryan Garcia has been dropped in quite a few fights. So it's not out of the realm that Barbosa, if he fights smart, he could possibly, beat Ryan Garcia. Because Ryan Garcia still make a lot of mistakes that he just haven't worked on. And I think that Devin Haney is going to watch very closely, and been watching very closely what's been going on with Ryan Garcia. Um, it's official. Devin Haney will take on Rolly Romero May the 30th, not the 31st. It's going to be on the Saturday, Las Vegas. They haven't picked the arena yet. I hope it's at my favorite arena to cover fights. I hope it's at the MGM Grand. I do not like the T-Mobile Arena. If it's at the if it's at the MGM Grand or the Mandalay Bay, that's fine with me because I love covering fights at those, because one, it's pretty easy to get a lot of footage. So you can get a lot of footage, where versus the T-Mobile arena, it's very hard to try to find footage because you have to maneuver around and all that kind of stuff. So, with that being said, you know, yeah. Yeah, that's true too. Sims looked like he didn't have a plan B. And I'm not talking about the and I'm not talking about the plan B that you get from CVS or Walgreens. Walgreens. But nah, he just didn't seem to have. That's what I mean. He didn't have a second gear. He stood around too much. Um, I think he got bothered. I'm not gonna say he got buzzed or got hurt, but he was just bothering. He was bothered by some of the stuff that he was getting back from Barbosa. But like I said, for Kenneth Sims, I don't want to say he headed towards gatekeeper because he's not even at the point where he's done enough to be established gatekeeper, because he doesn't know decent wins, and he's not never really held an actual belt. So that's the problem. And it's kind of sad because Timothy Bradley looked at him at the weigh-in and he said that the kid didn't have no muscle mass, or he looked frail, and he kind of predicted that was going to be the outcome, and that was pretty much the outcome. He didn't have no snap on his punches. He, he just didn't. He seemed befuddled by some of the stuff that Barbosa was doing. He seemed to be bothered by Barbosa's speed. Seemed that threw him off. It's just a lot of things went wrong for him. Like I said, occasionally he would land a nice counter up top, but he couldn't get his combinations off. He had a hard time establishing range. You know, he just really couldn't get a established attack going, and that was just his Achilles heel. And kudos to Barbosa. Barbosa did everything it took to win. He won fair and square. I thought he fought a great fight. And you could see towards like the last quarter of the fight, between round 9 and 12, he got real comfortable. You start seeing him like bouncing around a little bit, and you could just tell he was like, okay, I got this fight in the bag. And one of the judges gave Barbosa every round, if I'm not mistaken. I think one judge gave 2 rounds to Sims, another judge gave maybe three, and another one had a shutout. So for the most part, Barbosa by a wide margin. It wasn't even close, and that's just a fact. But he's saying that he's going back down to 140. Um, I don't know what's out there for him at 140. I think who knows? They may put him in the ring with Schofield. You never know. But anyway, before I'm gonna be